This is a mixed treatment comparisons meta-analysis. The aim of this project was to compare the effects of PCV2 vaccines on average daily gain in swine from 5 to 25 weeks. The vaccines that are compared in this study are listed here in Table 1. The studies that are included in the review are listed in Table 3. Notice here that not all the studies compared all the vaccines of interest. However, all the studies do include a control group. Mixed treatment comparison meta-analysis is an approach to using direct, which is the information where you have a comparison in a trial, and indirect information to make comparisons. In this data set, it's reasonable that people are interested more in the comparison of the vaccines to each other than the comparison of the vaccines to a control, because these vaccines are generally thought to be effective. However, there is an absence of studies that compare all of the vaccines. In fact, no one study compares all 4 commercially available products, and only one study compares 3 of them. Mixed treatment comparisons meta-analysis is an approach to doing this, and there are many papers that you can use to understand the approach. Mixed treatment comparisons meta-analysis is also known as network meta-analysis. Table 5 is an important paper, an important table for understanding the results. Table 5 reports the expected mean difference in average daily gain based on the mixed treatment comparisons meta-analysis. So average daily gain is a continuous outcome, and therefore the effect size that we use is mean difference. So we subtract the mean from one intervention group from the other. And if the means are the same, or close to being the same, then the mean difference will be equal to 0, which would suggest that there was not much difference in average daily gain between the 2 groups that we're looking at. So in Table 5, what we're presenting is all possible pairwise comparisons of the control and the 4 commercial vaccines. Starting with the first row, D1, D sub 1, 2, if we look in the note at the bottom, we can see what sub 1 and sub 2 mean. 1 is the control and 2 is the circumvent PCV2 product. What this says is that based on the model, the difference in average daily gain from the control group to circumvent is 25.68 grams per day, which means the circumvent is associated with an extra 25.68 grams per day compared to the control, using all of the information that was available, not just the trials that compare circumvent to controls. The confidence interval, this is a Bayesian analysis, so the credibility interval of that is quite wide, from 14 grams to 39 grams, and that reflects variation in the data set and a small number of studies. But as mentioned, what's more of interest is the comparison between the active products. So if we move down here to look at D sub 2.3, that is an estimate of the difference between 2, which is circumvent PCV2, and Ingulvec, which is Circoflex. And you can see that the estimate of the mean difference in those is negative 0.42 grams, so it's quite small, suggesting that based on all of the studies that are included, that there's very little difference. However, again, the credibility interval for that is quite wide. You can read the rest of Table 5 based on these 2 examples using the information in the note. This other information at the bottom relates to the fit of the model. Another interesting table in this paper is Table 10. Table 10 gives the mean rankings of the treatment arms, which are the interventions, in the mixed treatment comparison meta-analysis. This does require some sort of nuanced analysis because when ranking, things always have to come first, second, and third, but the difference between first and second might be much smaller than the difference between the other ranks, and so it is important to look at that information. So if a higher rank means that it was associated with a higher average daily gain, you can see that these two products have a very high ranking, and the difference between them is quite small, especially when compared to the difference between the other two products at the bottom. Well, one of them is not a product, one of them is a control group. So we would not expect people to interpret this as saying that Engelvac is better than Circumvent. We would expect that a more nuanced interpretation would be that they're very similar. One of the things also to notice is that for Circovac, there's a very wide standard deviation, which is reflective of the fact that there were very few publicly available studies where we could include information for that product. Interpreting MTCs can be complicated, and there are numerous resources available to help you understand how to read an MTC meta-analysis. One that we would direct you to is this paper, which discusses interpreting of indirect treatment comparisons, which is another name for mixed treatment comparisons meta-analysis or network meta-analysis, which are all synonyms for the same statistical approach.